When you walk into a room and you feel a sudden tension in the air, when eyes that barely know you turn cold without explanation, when whispers form behind your back, though you have done nothing to invite such disdain, I want you to understand something deeper is happening. This is not about you in the superficial sense. It is not your appearance, not your manner of speaking, not the trivial details of personality that stir this reaction. No, it is the shadow at work, and the shadow does not always belong to you. It belongs to them. You must realize that often you are not disliked because of what you are, but because of what you awaken in others. The unconscious is stirred by presence, not by reason. And when your very existence exposes a truth they have buried, they recoil. Human beings are masters of concealment. We cloak our inadequacies or desire, our fears behind masks we call personalities. These masks, these personae, are crafted to navigate society, to win approval, to shield the rawness of the psyche from exposure. But what happens when someone, merely by being tears through that mask, what happens when your integrity, your authenticity, or even your wounds mirror the secret fractures within another? They experience you not as you are, but as the revelation of their own denied truth. This is why they dislike you without reason. The reason exists, but it is hidden in the labyrinths of their unconscious. And in that darkness lies the shadow. I have spent much of my life studying how the unconscious reveals itself in the most subtle of ways. A dream, a slip of the tongue, an irrational hatred of someone we have just met. We tell ourselves stories to explain these reactions. I simply don't like them, or something about them rubs me the wrong way. But behind these rationalizations lies a psychic mechanism that is older than the rational mind itself. Projection is the word I use to describe this process. What is denied within is cast outward onto another. You then become the carrier of their hidden truth. You embody for them the qualities they cannot face in themselves, and thus your mere presence becomes intolerable. But you must not confuse this with a curse. To be the mirror is to carry both weight and gift. The soul that evokes projection is often the soul that has touched authenticity, the soul that has stripped away enough of its own mask to radiate truth, even if silently. When you expose the truth of another simply by existing, you act as a catalyst in their individuation. Though they may fight it with hostility, their dislike is the surface. The deeper reality is that something in them is cracking, some defense is weakening, and they are brought face to face with what they have avoided. Their dislike is fear wearing the costume of disdain. Think of a dream in which a stranger pursues you down a dark corridor. You flee, terrified, only to discover that the pursuer is yourself, the part of you you have denied. This is the nature of the shadow. And so it is in life. When others dislike you without reason, they are fleeing down that corridor, believing you to be the pursuer, when in fact it is their own unacknowledged truth that chases them. You are simply the figure it wears in the dream of their waking life. There is an archetypal dimension to this as well. Humanity has always known the power of the truth-bearer, the one who brings light into darkness. In myth, this figure is often met with suspicion, exile, even crucifixion. Recall Prometheus, who brought fire to mankind and suffered eternal punishment for it. Recall Christ, who revealed the hypocrisies of his age and was rejected by those who could not bear their own exposure. To carry truth is to disturb the collective shadow, and the collective shadow resists exposure with violence. Do not be surprised then if your authenticity calls forth dislike. It is the natural response of the unconscious to the threat of revelation. But I want you to listen carefully. Their dislike does not define you. It defines the threshold of their own confrontation with truth. If you internalize their rejection, if you believe yourself unworthy because of it, you descend into the very shadow they flee. You become trapped in their projection, but if you understand, if you see with the eye of the psyche, then you remain free. You know that the hostility is not the measure of your soul, but of their avoidance, and in this freedom you gain power. For the one who knows they are a mirror can stand in the storm without breaking, can allow the projections to wash over them like waves, knowing that none of it sticks to the essence. Consider the alchemical vessel blackened by the fire of transformation. The impurities rise, the hidden toxins come forth, and the vessel darkens. Yet it is precisely this process that leads to gold. When people dislike you without reason, you are that vessel. Their shadow rises, their hidden truths bubble to the surface, and they attempt to cast them upon you. You darken in their eyes, but it is not your soul that is stained. It is their own material, their own lead that has surfaced. You are simply the alchemical fire that exposed it. This is why I urge you not to fear rejection. Rejection is often a sign that your presence is catalytic. When you stand in your own authenticity, you vibrate at a frequency that shakes loose the illusions around you. Some will feel liberated by this. They will thank you, for your light allows them to see. Others will feel threatened. They will despise you, because your light blinds them to their carefully constructed darkness. Both responses are the same phenomenon. You are the revealer of truth. Their reaction does not measure your worth. It measures their readiness. In the depths of the unconscious lies the ancient struggle between light and shadow. To awaken to yourself is to awaken to this struggle. And when you are awake, you cannot help but awaken others, even unwillingly. This is why some souls, though silent, provoke storms. The storm is not in them, but in those who look upon them. And when you realize this, you begin to see rejection differently. You see it not as failure, but as confirmation that you are embodying something essential. You are carrying the archetype of the revealer, the one who exposes the truth. And though that role carries loneliness, it also carries profound necessity, for without such mirrors, humanity would remain blind, endlessly lost in its own lies. So when they dislike you for no reason, remember, it is not because you are unworthy, but because you are too truthful for their fragile lies. It is not because you are flawed, but because your presence has opened the door to their shadow. And though they may resist, though they may cast you out, you remain what you are, the bearer of light in the labyrinth of the unconscious. And that is a role of immense significance. You see, The psyche does not operate in the clean categories that reason demands. The unconscious speaks in images, in symbols, in moods, and in the sudden visceral sense of aversion or attraction that floods us before thought can catch up. When someone dislikes you without reason, that dislike is not without origin. It is the language of the unconscious trying to protect itself. It is the psyche saying, I cannot yet bear this truth. I will cast it outside of me and name it enemy. You have become a living symbol for them, not a person, but a carrier of the material they would rather not see. And in that, you are far more powerful than you may realize. Think of the archetype of the trickster, the one who unsettles, who plays the role of disruption in myth and story. The trickster is not welcomed. He is mocked, ridiculed, blamed, yet his role is indispensable, for he reveals where the order is brittle, where the system is a lie, where the mask has grown too tight. In many lives, you will embody the trickster for someone else without ever choosing it. Your mere presence unsettles, disorients, and reveals. They may laugh at you, they may attack you, but behind their reaction lies the trembling recognition that their inner house is not as stable as they pretend. And whether they know it or not, your presence has begun the process of transformation. But what is exposed is not always the darkness of others, it may also be their unlived light. The human being does not only bury what is shameful, they also bury what is holy. They bury the brilliance. They are too afraid to embody the calling. They are too frightened to accept. And so, when you embody a spark of that light, when you dare to live authentically, they may despise you because you remind them of what they have abandoned. Their dislike then is envy disguised as contempt. They cannot admit that you awaken their longing, so they reduce you, dismiss you, or scorn you, all in an effort to silence the voice within that says, I too was meant for more. In such moments, realize you are carrying not only their shadow, but also their unlived destiny. The unconscious is not polite. It does not whisper softly. It pushes violently when cornered. Thus, the reactions you evoke will sometimes be disproportionate, irrational, beyond explanation. Do not be shocked by the scale of the hostility. The force is not against you personally. It is the pressure of their own psychic repression breaking at the seams. Imagine a dam that has held back a flood for years. When a single crack appears, the pressure of the water surges with fury. You may be that crack. Their dislike is the roar of their flood breaking against you. And though it feels personal, it is not. It is archetypal. It is ancient. You have touched the deep river of their unconscious, and it resists. I must also warn you that to be such a mirror is not without danger. People protect their illusions with ferocity, for to face the truth is often more frightening than death. History is littered with examples of the truth-bearer cast out, the prophet stoned, the philosopher condemned, the dreamer silenced. This is why the path of individuation is not one of comfort, but of courage. When you choose to walk in authenticity, You choose to walk into the storm of projections. You must cultivate resilience, not the resilience of hardness, but the resilience of understanding. For if you know the language of the psyche, you will not be crushed by their hatred. You will see the projection for what it is, the face of their shadow painted upon your own. In dreams, we often meet figures who appear as adversaries. They attack us, insult us, chase us. Yet when we turn to face them, when we ask them who they are, they dissolve into some part of ourselves we have abandoned. In the same way, when someone despises you, if you look deeper, you will find they are despising not you, but their own disowned self. You are simply the dream figure they have encountered in the daylight. Their hostility is their unconscious dream leaking into the waking world. And this is why I say to you, do not take their dislike as a condemnation of your soul, but as evidence that your soul is radiant enough to awaken their dream. There is another dimension we must explore, the collective. For it is not only individuals who project, entire societies do the same. A culture, like a person, has a shadow. It buries its violence, its greed, its hypocrisy, and then projects these qualities onto scapegoats. The stranger, the foreigner, the outsider becomes the vessel for the collective shadow. They are despised not because of what they are, but because they carry the hidden sins of the community. This dynamic lives in you as well. When you are rejected by groups, when you are disliked without cause by many, you may have stepped into the archetypal role of the scapegoat. This role is painful, but it is also transformative. For the scapegoat is the seed of renewal. By carrying the darkness of the tribe, the scapegoat forces the tribe to confront what it has denied. You may feel the loneliness of this role. To be disliked without reason is to feel unseen, misused, distorted. But in the loneliness lies a hidden invitation. You are being called to step away from the false approval of the collective and into the deeper approval of your own soul. The individuation process requires this exile, for you cannot become whole while chained to the opinions of others. Their dislike, then, is the crucible that refines you. It forces you to find a center that cannot be shaken by the projections of the crowd. And when you stand in that center, you become not only free but luminous. You become the one who, by your very being, exposes truth. This is not arrogance, it is necessity. For the world does not heal through comfort, it heals through confrontation. The truths we most need to see are the ones we least want to acknowledge. And so life sends us mirrors, people who disturb us, who awaken us, who provoke feelings we cannot explain. Sometimes you are that mirror for another. Sometimes another is that mirror for you. The task is to recognize the projection, to withdraw it, to see what it reveals about the self. But most are not ready. Most cling to their dislike, their contempt, their judgment, because it is easier to live in the lie than to dismantle it. And so you will be disliked. But remember, this dislike is not a verdict. It is a mirror of their unreadiness. Let me offer you a symbol. In alchemy, there is the stage of nigredo, the blackening, when all material breaks down into chaos. This stage is terrifying, for it looks like destruction, but it is necessary, for without it, there can be no transformation. When people dislike you without reason, you are, for them, the nigredo. You are the blackening that disrupts their order. They resist, they hate, they attack, but within that resistance lies the possibility of their transformation. Whether they accept it or not is not your burden. Your task is to remain what you are, to remain the fire that exposes, the presence that reveals, the mirror that does not shatter, even when despised. And so, I tell you, when they dislike you, stand firm. Do not bend yourself into the shape they desire. Do not dim your light to soothe their fear. For the soul that hides to gain approval loses itself, while the soul that remains authentic, even in the face of rejection, becomes whole. Their dislike is not your defeat. It is your initiation. It marks you as one who has chosen truth over illusion, selfhood over mask, individuation over conformity. And though the path is lonely, it is also radiant, for it leads to the fullness of being. There is a moment in every human journey when you realize that the dislike of others cannot be traced to any clear fault of your own. You replay your words, your gestures, your silence, searching for the offense, yet nothing emerges. Still, the atmosphere thickens with unspoken hostility. It is here that the psyche whispers its deeper lesson. You have become a vessel of revelation, and revelation is rarely welcomed. The soul that embodies truth does not have to speak it for others to feel it. Presence itself radiates a vibration, and that vibration reaches into the hidden recesses of another's unconscious. When their concealed material is touched, it erupts in resistance. Dislike without reason is simply the language of avoidance. The shadow is clever. It will not admit its presence directly. It does not say, "You remind me of my father's cruelty," or "You embody the joy I have buried." Instead, it says, "I don't like you." The dislike functions as a veil, a way of diverting consciousness away from the painful recognition that the real discomfort lies within. Thus, the projection attaches itself to you. You become the figure that carries the qualities they most fear. And the tragedy is that they do not know it. To them, it feels utterly true that you are intolerable, but what they cannot tolerate is themselves reflected in you in myth. This dynamic plays out in countless ways. The prophet who speaks truth to the tribe is exiled, for he exposes their corruption. The healer is condemned as a witch, for she awakens the powers the community has suppressed. The mystic is scorned, for he reveals the emptiness of the rituals the people cling to. These figures are not despised for their essence, but for their effect, because they disturb the fragile balance of illusion. So it is with you when you are disliked without cause. You are carrying an archetypal pattern older than yourself, the pattern of the truth bearer. And it always provokes resistance. You must recognize how easily the human being deceives itself Civilization itself is built upon layers of denial. We call it culture, morality, politics, but beneath these names lies the collective attempt to avoid the chaos of the unconscious. We prefer order, even if it is false, to the uncertainty of truth, and so when you appear, when your authenticity breaks the veil, they will dislike you. For you are not only an individual to them, you are a threat to the very structure of their psychic world. And the unconscious responds to such threats with instinctive hostility, but you must not recoil. To recoil is to betray your gift. The soul that walks the path of individuation must accept exile as part of its destiny, not because you are doomed to loneliness, but because the road to wholeness leads you beyond the approval of the crowd. Their dislike is a sign that you are moving beyond the persona, that mask they cling to, and in time, if they have the courage, your presence may awaken them. The seed of transformation is always planted in the soil of discomfort. Let us look at this in terms of dreams. Imagine you dream of standing in a bright room, and suddenly a figure enters who makes you uneasy. You cannot say why, but their presence unsettles you. If you ask the dream, "Who is this figure?" you will discover it is a fragment of your own soul, something you have neglected. The dream disguises it as other because you are not yet ready to embrace it. So too in waking life, when someone dislikes you without reason, you have stepped into the role of the dream figure for them. They see in you the fragment they have neglected. Their dislike is the unconscious trying to push it away. Yet, the psyche is paradoxical. What we resist most fiercely is often what we most desperately need. The disliked figure in the dream carries the treasure as well as the threat. The one who unsettles you is often the key to your next stage of growth. This is why I say, to be disliked without reason is not a condemnation but an affirmation. It means you have touched the archetypal current that stirs transformation. You're not only yourself, you are a symbol in the dream of another's life. This is a sacred responsibility. You must bear it with humility, lest you fall into pride and imagine yourself superior. You are not better than those who dislike you. You are simply playing the role that the unconscious has cast you in, and often you too project. You too dislike others without reason, because they expose what you have not yet faced. The dynamic is universal. No one escapes it. To recognize it is to step closer to awareness, to realize that what we hate in others often belongs to ourselves. But you have chosen the path of consciousness, or else you would not be here listening. Therefore, I tell you, when you are disliked, ask not, "What is wrong with me?" but "What truth in them am I exposing?" And when you dislike another without reason, ask not, "Why are they so intolerable?" but "What truth in me are they awakening?" This reversal of perspective is the beginning of wisdom. It allows you to see that dislike is rarely about the surface. It is about the depth, the unspoken, the hidden, and in that recognition, you grow. The archetype of the exile speaks here. Every culture has known it. The one cast out, the stranger, the wanderer. To be disliked without reason is to taste exile. Even if you remain physically among others, you feel the coldness of their gaze. the distance of their hearts, and it wounds you. But the exile archetype also carries the path to transformation, for in exile you are stripped of illusions, forced to find within what others deny you without. You are driven to the well of your own soul, and from that well comes wisdom no crowd can give. You may feel the sting of loneliness, but I tell you, this loneliness is the womb of your depth. The crowd's approval keeps you shallow, for it tempts you to live according to their mask. Their dislike frees you, painful though it is, for it severs the chain of their validation. When you are disliked without reason, you are being invited into solitude. And solitude is the furnace in which the true self is forged. So take courage. Do not fear the rejection. Do not fear being the dream figure who unsettles, the mirror who exposes, the exile who stands apart. For in these roles, you are aligned with the archetype of transformation itself. And though you will not always be thanked, though you may be despised, you will be fulfilling a role as ancient as humanity, the role of the revealer. To carry truth is to disturb, and to disturb is to awaken. And remember this paradox: though they dislike you for no reason, it is precisely because you have touched the reason deeper than reason. You have awakened their truth. And truth, before it liberates, always offends. The soul that dares to live in authenticity inevitably becomes a mirror. You do not ask for this role. You do not choose it consciously. But the moment you shed the mask of the persona, the moment you begin to embody what is real within you, others will see themselves reflected in you with a clarity they cannot bear. And so they will dislike you. They will project upon you the very qualities they suppress in themselves. They will name you arrogant, when in truth they are ashamed of their own unclaimed strength. They will name you selfish, when in truth they have buried their own desire. They will name you unworthy, when in truth they tremble before their own unlived life. You become their canvas, their scapegoat, their exile, and it wounds you, yes, but it also frees you, for it reveals who you are, one who carries the archetype of the revealer. I want you to see how sacred this role is. Humanity advances not by comfort, but by confrontation. Without the mirror, the individual remains trapped in illusion. Without the exile, the community remains asleep in its lies. Without the truth bearer, the archetype of transformation never stirs. When you are disliked without reason, you are participating in this ancient drama. You are not merely yourself. You are a symbol, a living instrument of the unconscious, evoking growth where it is resisted most. And though they may not thank you, though they may never recognize the gift you carried, the fact remains, you were the catalyst. You were the one who reminded them that the shadow exists. But how are you to live with this burden? That is the question. For it is not easy to be misunderstood, to be cast out of affection, to feel the chill of rejection. The danger is that you internalize their dislike, that you begin to believe their projection, that you shrink yourself to win back their warmth. Resist this temptation. If you betray your authenticity to be loved, you may gain their approval, but you will lose your soul. And a soul lost for the sake of acceptance becomes a ghost wandering through life. endlessly hungry, endlessly unsatisfied. The only true nourishment is authenticity. And authenticity will always expose truth, and thus it will always risk rejection. So you must cultivate an inner center that cannot be shaken by external judgment. This is the work of individuation. It is to know yourself so deeply that the opinions of others, whether praise or disdain, cannot sway you from your path. It is to carry within you an image of the self, the archetype of wholeness that guides you more powerfully than the crowd's shifting gaze. When you live from that center, rejection does not destroy you. It initiates you. Each dislike becomes a signal that you are radiating truth. Each scorn becomes a sign that you are aligned with your inner self. And though it hurts, the hurt itself is transfigured into strength, into clarity, into depth. The alchemists understood this. They spoke of the lapis, the philosopher's stone, born from countless trials of fire, water, dissolution, and coagulation. To become whole is to endure rejection, to be broken down, to be blackened in the eyes of others, and yet to persist. The dislike you endure is one of those fires. It burns away your dependence on outer approval. It dissolves your attachment to illusion. It forces you to coagulate into something more solid, more radiant, more real. Without these fires, there is no gold. Without their dislike, there is no true independence of soul. And I tell you, there is also a hidden blessing, for in time you will find those who recognize you, who are not threatened by your authenticity, but liberated by it. They will not dislike you without reason, but love you without condition. They will not project upon you their shadow, but will walk with you as equals, each owning their own darkness, each striving toward wholeness. These are your true companions. They are few, but they are enough, and you would not find them if you remained in the crowd's approval. It is exile that clears the way for true communion. There is a paradox at the heart of this. The more deeply you accept that you will be disliked without reason, the less it wounds you, for you see it clearly. You recognize the projection, you understand the psyche's language, and once you understand, the dislike of others loses its sting. You see it as a symptom of their own journey, not as a verdict upon your worth. You allow them their resistance, their fear, their hostility, without absorbing it into your being. You remain free, you remain whole, you remain yourself. And so I leave you with this. When they dislike you for no reason, do not despair. Do not twist yourself into shapes to win back their affection. Do not curse the role you play. Instead, recognize it. Recognize that you are the mirror, the revealer, the exile, the catalyst. Recognize that you are participating in the ancient dance of shadow and light, projection and revelation, exile and return. Recognize that their dislike is not a prison, but a passage into solitude, into authenticity, into individuation. For the soul that exposes truth cannot be universally loved. It is not its destiny. Its destiny is greater. to awaken, to disturb, to transform. And though you will walk through rejection, you will also walk into wholeness. And that, my friends, is worth every exile. So walk without fear. When their eyes turn cold, when their voices whisper against you, when their hearts withdraw without cause, remember, it is not you they dislike. It is their own truth reflected in you. And if you can bear this, if you can hold steady in the face of their shadow, you will become what few ever dare to be. You will become whole, and in that wholeness, you will shine with a light that needs no approval, a light that exposes, a light that heals, a light that cannot be extinguished.